Arsenal reached €40 million Christos Tzolis agreement with Club Brugge. As you lot know, we've reached an agreement which equates to about £34 million. We're in the process of finalising a move for the 24-year-old. The Athletic did say on June the 12th, we've been exploring a deal. And just over a month beyond that, it seems that we're progressing with this. Crucially, Arsenal have been looking to strengthen their attack this summer with the pursuit of Tzolis separate from any interest in signing Morgan Rogers from Aston Villa or any move for any target. We all know Trossard has completed his move to Besiktas for €20 million, and it's quite heartbreaking at the end when he's like, goodbye, Mr. Clutch, or something like that. We made an inquiry for Kenan Yildiz that didn't go anywhere. Crystal Palace did try to sign Tzolis last summer. Obviously, that didn't happen. This will mark a return for England naturally for him. He was at Norwich. He returns to the shores, a much better player at 24 years of age than he was obviously at 19. He recorded 22 goals and 29 assists in 52 appearances last season, and he also won a league title in Belgium, in which you can never have too many winners. He's been capped 34 times by Greece, and he's got 9 goals to his name, people. I've seen a picture of Tzolis in the Arsenal 09 home kit. How do we keep finding these guys? I don't know, man. Everyone's an Arsenal fan behind closed doors. The Daily Mail came out with this article. Not read it. Don't know what he's saying, but we're going to find out together. Smash the like button if you haven't. Inside Arsenal's patient transfer strategy. Why Andrea Berta is unfazed by lack of business. How Machine is working around the clock to secure bargains. And the defender who could replace the sideline William Saliba. Quite the headline. Patience is the buzzword circling around Arsenal's London Coley base. That might not appease large sections of the Premier League champions. I love it. Fan base, with many supporters panicking at the lack of business so far. But Mikel Arteta and Andrea Berta are taking a measured approach shaped by unique challenges of a World Cup year, and they need to carefully manage a squad already pushed to its physical limits. The fan expectation stems from a more restricted strategy than last summer when Andrea Berta had made 6 of his 8 signings in July. Those additions were Kepa, Zubamendi, Norgard, Noni, Mascara, and Gyökeres. They not only brought with them a great deal of excitement, but those moves left other clubs to sweat on deals, with Arsenal having done the bulk of their business way ahead of the deadline. At present, the Gunners have only made 1 outfield signing, heading towards the 4th week of July, and that was making Hincapie's signing loan deal permanent. Obviously, we brought in Millier, and since then, Tzolis seems to be going. Again, we've mentioned Tzolis. World Cup has made negotiation deals tricky, with players focused on representing their country. With the tournament concluding on Sunday, there's an expectation that business at Arsenal will start to be ramped up from next week. Berta has put in groundwork. Sources say he's a machine who gets the training ground early in the morning and doesn't leave until late. I mean, is there any relevance that, again, we hear all of this before? I mean, we know the business we have done or haven't done. We know how Berta works. We know what the World Cup could mean for getting signings. This article hasn't told us anything yet. The Italians' strategy will not be shaken by the lack of signatures so far. He negotiates multiple deals for a single position before pulling the trigger and deciding which player to move for. It goes back to his days as a banker, a real-world business outlook transported into football. Each agent or club is left on edge, wondering if Arsenal really want their player, reducing the likelihood of them strong-arming the Gunners into paying way over the odds. The approach is smart but not foolish. The dithering can cause a player to have his head turned elsewhere to a different club who showed more concrete interest and more money. Jeremy Monga is an example. The 17-year-old looks set to join Arsenal before City swooped in. Arsenal, though, have a different sway compared to many clubs. They are the reigning champions, which is a highly attractive proposition for suitors. It's understood Berta refuses to be drawn into a deal which is not good monetary value for the club. The numbers matter to him, a different approach to some sporting directors who are more gung-ho financially. Left wing is the key focus. Now Trossard has joined Besiktas, with the club closing in on Club Brugge winger Tzolis. Berta's assistant Mauricio Michelli watched the 24-year-old play for Greece against Sweden last month. Even though the Gunners get their deal for Tzolis over the line, there's still capacity to bring in another forward, with firm interest remaining in Aston Villa's Morgan Rogers. The squad needs bolstering. There's an awareness at the club that the opening weeks of the season present a need for immediate rotation, with many of their frontline players at breaking point. Declan Rice was the Arsenal outfield player who accumulated the most minutes during the 2025-26 campaign, 3,094 in the Premier League alone. He has battled through England's World Cup with neutral pain in his hamstring, which began around Christmas, boys. So again, at some point, it's going to get dark, isn't it? Like, it's a ticking time bomb. The more you know, it can have a snowball effect. The more you ignore something, the bigger it's going to get. Bukayo Saka started 25 of Arsenal's 38 games last season, despite enduring injuries to his hamstring. You know what? That sounds surreal, isn't it? That actually sounds surreal. At 25, fair enough. hip, well, hamstring, hip, Achilles, you know. And the thing is, yeah, with some of these players, yeah, it's multiple knocks. With Declan Rice at the moment is battling illness. He's got back issues. He's got hamstring injuries. Saliba's got an ankle and back. The back is taking prominent. I completely forgot about Saka's hip, hamstring. I was focused on the Achilles. The Achilles issue has plagued the winger since March. Thomas Tuchel revealed that Saka had carried on playing for Arsenal while fully not fit in the latter months for the league campaign. He added that the winger would be treated with care in his camp, a genuine concern. Given that the 24-year-old has played an awful lot of football in the past year. Saka made just 2 starts, don't forget 3 assists, and he was an unused sub in the defeat to Argentina. Saliba has been dealing with a back issue, people, which dates back months. Again, maybe there's actually something of relevance for us now. It's understood that Aston Villa's Ezri Konsa is on Arsenal's radar. He would have the potential to compete with Mosquera as the starting centre-back in place of Saliba, and one of you would probably have to play right-back. I'd prefer Konsa and then let Mosquera play in his natural position and earn his chops in that, who is set to miss at least the first few months of the season. However, the two clubs are some way apart in their evaluation of the centre-back. Arsenal's pre-season officially starts on Monday at London Coley, though players not at the World Cup are currently in Marbella with Mikel Arteta and his staff. For Arsenal, the message remains clear. Patience will win out over panic. The next few weeks will determine whether Berta's calculated approach delivers the final pieces Arteta needs to defend their title, people. What are you lot saying? Hand of Arsenal retweet. We'll get into that in just a second. Apparently, Arsenal have extensively monitored several right backs in recent months. Wesley of Roma, Ivan Fresneda of Sporting, previously of Valladolid, Namandi Collins of Frankfurt. I'm sure you was at Dortmund, and Tino Livramento. Livramento was viewed as one of the leading targets before his latest injury, people, in which that's the only criticism you could say. I do wonder, because for me, I would have liked to, if it makes sense, a right back that could play centre half if we just before Saliba's got injured. Now I'm more wanting a centre back that can play at fullback, innit? And yeah, Livramento, quality player, but he's injury prone. Arsenal tax is going to be absolutely horrible for us, innit? Really and truly. Saliba gone. DG, that seriously hampers our title defense. How can a new player integrate with Saliba in defense so easily? It has to be Calafiori or White, existing players, right? No, it doesn't necessarily have to be that. I would probably more want Benjamin White because I do want that balance of a right footer and a left footer. Maybe you move Mosquera across. Calafiori, you do play 2 right-footed centre halves and no one says nothing. So you could do 2 left-sided centre halves. We're gonna have to make it count. I do think we're gonna have to bring someone in. We're gonna have to get on with it, innit? Like, we're gonna have to get on with it. Is it a dampener? Of course, everyone would miss Saliba, but we've got no choice. Like, if we've got that kind of thinking, we all might as well pack up now, innit? Like, clearly it's a dampener. 4 or 5 months is mad. Obviously, it could be better, but sure as hell could be a lot worse. Because if he's injured now, we cheat a bit of the game, provided he was to have surgery tomorrow. Obviously, you would miss a large, July, there's no games. You'd miss preseason, of course. By the time the Premier League comes, we probably shave a month and a half. If he is out until what? November, December, probably, because he could be back sooner, could be back later. He's missing a bunch of football because in August it's 1 game a week. Very quickly it turns into 2 games a week, 3 games in 10 days. There'll probably be at least 2 international breaks. So we're gonna have to get on with it. You lot have said Hand of Arsenal has retweeted something. Apparently Elijah Upson has signed his Arsenal contract. He's the son of Matthew Upson. He joined us on a free transfer after the end of his contract with Spurs. Official announcement in the coming days. This has said Arsenal are preparing a bid for Konsa. Thought to be a significant gap in valuation between the clubs at this stage. Konsa has 2 years left on the Villa deal, and signing an extension cannot be ruled out. I don't mind Konsa in the squad. I don't think that much of him. I'm a weird one. I appreciate Charlton. Charlton bring through some very good players in it, but I never really rated Konsa. Newfound respect for him for what he's achieved with Aston Villa. Still don't think he's really that good, if I'm honest, but in terms of having you in the squad, competing, the amount of games, Saliba's absence, we could do a lot worse than a 27, 28-year-old England international that's got 2 years left on his deal. Who, the big attraction for me, I know we're focusing on Saliba and obviously centre-half. The big attraction for me is actually Konsa's ability to play right-back because, Saliba's the new one, but Magalhaes has been through the wars. Hincapié and Calafiori pick up knocks. If we're looking through our back line and talking about injuries, it probably is Benjamin White and Timber together, innit? You do have a young Marley Salmon. Obviously, we need to slow cook him and things like that. He is an option, and you'd imagine he'd be on the bench, but that's very different with throwing him in the mix because, again, you're going to have to allow these young centre-halves to make mistakes. Way before you saw Gabriel and Saliba be what they are now, they have to get destroyed by defenders and things. And I'm not saying you say this, but I think a lot of fans, they like to have their cake and eat it. They call for young players. And when the young players, the biggest thing for young players is adding consistency. So there'll be times Marley Salmon looks good. Obviously, times he looks overawed. I'm a big fan of, like how Wenger with attackers, he used to, you might be a creative player, but he'll put you out wide. I kind of think the same way with centre halves. Like for me, Marley Salmon, I'd love to see you serve in the short, medium term, a bit of an apprenticeship at right back before obviously long term cutting your mustard at centre half. And beyond the obvious reasons as to why you want Marley Salmon to make it at Arsenal is I want us to be that club. Like, I'm not gassing Chelsea, but Chelsea bring through play. It don't really matter if you're a defender, an attacker, or a goalie, or whatever. At Arsenal, we know the kind of players that come through our system. You could almost say Miles Lewis-Skelly is an anomaly, really. Yes, he's played left back on brand with Saka and Maitland-Niles, but he's almost like a pure centre mid. We always bring through the Dalmany, Smith-Rowe, Wanyeri, them kind of creative kind of players. I want to see us bring a bit more roundedness. And even on the topic of Max Dalman, Wanyeri, Saka, not every young player that comes through has to be a star. You know, it would be lovely if we brought through some more defenders, like big up Marley Salmon. But, you know, if we like what Chelsea have with what's my man's name, man? Archipong. Just a calm, steady Eddie to tie us over, man. What about Timber at centre back? It's an option. But for me, across the course of the season, I'm all for Hincapié, Calafiori, Timber, Ben White, all playing centre halves. I think they're great fullbacks and good defenders, good centre halves, if that makes sense. Yeah, we did read that in relation to Saliba. I don't think anybody's sleeping on Mascara. It's just a thing of it's logical and it makes sense to say, okay, Saliba's out, Mascara in. Again, if Saliba's out for 4 or 5 months, think about it logically. We're playing 3 games, but bearing in mind, people could be carrying knocks into the season, but think about it logically. You're playing 3 games in 10 days. If you've got less players to pick from, the existing options, which Mascara would be one, are more risks of injuries. 3 to 5 months, bro. That is 2 international breaks. That's 3 games in 10 days. There's going to be a bit of wear and tear. And unfortunately, I think fans get into this trap of assuming it's just a Saliba injury, where we've seen scenarios where Saliba might play with a knock, Gabriel's out, you know, Mascara might come in. There could be multiple injuries to that back line. And as I said, for me, if there was something I'd be crashing out over, it wouldn't be Arsenal signings or lack of. It would be the detrimental effect of what these injuries could mean for at least the start of the season. You don't want to make it harder than it needs to be. So Konsa seems to be flavour of the month. Team Talk can reveal Ezri Konsa is rapidly climbing up Arsenal's shortlist and is emerging as a serious target. Sources insist Arsenal's admiration for Konsa is long-standing and set to intensify in the coming weeks. Obviously, we was linked with him before this whole Saliba stuff. It's going to add more fuel to the flames. Now, for me, can we just secure Morgan Rogers and then start doing the Konsa thing? And it'd be interesting to see what the priority is, because I think centre mid's a priority. I think left wing's a priority. I now believe centre half has to be the priority, man, because, yeah, man. Why can't they just put in a bid? Why do they have to announce that they're preparing? To be fair, the club hasn't announced anything. Bring in Wesley purely for the name. I'm shameless. Look at this guy, man. This ain't foolishness. Gary Jacob of the Times has said, Arsenal were considering whether to sell Ben White. He's unlikely to take a drop in level despite interest from Everton and Crystal Palace. Team Talk understands Arsenal are now preparing for the possibility Saliba could require surgery on a back injury, a procedure that could sideline him for the remainder of the calendar year. So, boy, 2026, we might not see him again, forcing the club to reassess their defensive strategy this summer. Arsenal entered the summer looking to sign a new right back, ideally a versatile option who could compete with or potentially replace Ben White. Arsenal are now increasingly inclined to keep White while also signing another defender. I think that needs to be the case. Romano has said, it's going to be a busy July for Arsenal. It has been a quiet June. Arsenal are Premier League champions and Champions League finalists. They wanted to take a minute to plan for everything. Arsenal will be busy, busy, busy. I think I speak for everyone when I say smash the like button. And also, we hope that's the case. We're always looking for players of the future, people. And big up Aaron Ramsey. Forgive me if I can't pronounce this Donny's name, but Arsenal are showing strong interest in Axel Don Shiwi, bro, it's a myth. I tried. I mean, no disrespect, but 16-year-old Axel. Apparently, he became Cardiff City's youngest ever player at 15 years and 234 days after a sub appearance against Newport in October 2025. Bring him in, man. Obviously, he'd initially joined the academy. If he can progress to the first team, great. If he can make us some money and not necessarily break to the first team, also great. Romano has said Arsenal are now set to accelerate on the Morgan Rogers deal. Top target as new winger, as always mentioned. Talks already advanced on the player side and separate case from Tzolis. Arsenal always wanted both. No talks for Bukola so far. Focus is on Morgan Rogers. Sky Sports has said he's our top forward target. An approach from Aston Villa is expected. To Aston Villa, apologies. Rogers is expected to cost 100+ million given the Elliot Anderson and Sandro Tonali deals. So, I mean, we haven't learned anything new there. Saliba is expected to play no part when France play England. Obviously, people. He was complaining about back pain, which he's been managing during the tournament. He's expected to undergo further tears. Nicole, who we were linked with, people. is expected to come in for him. Surgery has been floated as a possibility for the Arsenal defender this summer, but a final decision has not been made. Saliba is being absent for an extended spell would be a hammer blow to Arsenal, who are already sweating on the fitness of Bukayo Saka and Declan Rice. Saliba suffered a back injury 3 years ago in March 2023, and that was our title hopes done then, and it forced him to miss the rest of the season. Again, Konsa is being linked with us. Benjamin White's future is still subject to speculation. So yeah, man, we won't read the rest of that. Tosh, what has it said here in relation to Berto? Oh, I think we've gone over this when we're talking about the groundwork and all of that kind of jazz. Romano has said Bruno Guimaraes could be the next midfielder Arsenal sign. Arsenal continue to explore a deal for Julián Alvarez, with Andrea Berta also in contact with Atletico Madrid, who are currently more inclined to do business with a non-La Liga rival. If they are to sell, Junior Krupi is another profile on Arsenal's list. I'd love Junior Krupi, man. I think we should go for him over Alvarez, because Alvarez got his heart set on Barcelona. Rogers as a winger is a waste of money. Can see us keeping Martinelli. I think we need to, man. DG, would you rather Kone over Bruno G? I feel like he's got a good future ahead. I wouldn't say rather, but I've said this before. If we can't get Bruno Guimaraes, Manu Kone, I'm on it. Like, if they really are selling him for 40, 50 million euros, from what I've seen of him, from what he did at the World Cup, I think he'd be a very good signing. Obviously, he's a France international and he's played in their World Cup squad, so I can't say he's not a big name, but you know what I'm getting at, innit? Bruno Guimaraes, oh my God, blockbuster signing. Some fans would find that a difficult pill to swallow, but he'd be equally as good for our squad collectively, man. Like, he really would help us. I like the fact that he wants the ball under pressure. I like his ball, his technical level, can drive with a ball, gives us good options. And I'd be happy with one of Bruno Guimaraes or Kone, Zubamendi, Declan Rice, Miles Lewis-Skelly, all the other options that we can utilize in midfield. Didn't realize Konsa and Saka are best mates till I watched the Saka documentary. Really good watch. Football's a small world, and I'm not being funny. They all play against each other. They all probably grown up playing against each other, give or take. You know, they're all in the England camp together. I'm not saying there's not rivalries, but they're work colleagues, essentially. Saka and Rice will be out for at least 2 months at least. Ben White is a liability. He loves an injury. I'd rather a Gabriel and Capie duo. Big up the Twitch gang. John, one love, man. What's the retweet? I mean, I went through Hand of Arsenal's thing. I can't see anything. If we don't get Bruno G or Kone, what is better doing? If we don't get either one, as I say, names are one thing, and I'm allowed, like you, are allowed to be disappointed. But profiles, don't let the window end, and you haven't got someone that can play as a 6 or an 8 like Bruno. You haven't got, whatever you would deem Morgan Rogers over as, or a defensive profile. Make sure we address these areas come the end of the window. As much as I want level raisers and household names, I want creepy, man. DG, if we couldn't get Bruno G, would you take Belembra? I would, but I'm not as keen on Belembra as some people, man. I think there's still little things to iron out in this game, and Brighton are going to make you pay an arm and a leg. I don't think it's worth it. What's Arteta's obsession with English players? Is he really obsessed? If anything, he signs bare Spanish dons. Don't really care what nationality the players are, just as long as it makes sense, people. The buzzword circulating around Arsenal's training ground is patience. We've said this before, innit? We went over an article, so I might as well continue. The World Cup has made negotiating deals tricky, but with the tournament concluding on Sunday, there's an expectation that business at Arsenal will ramp up in the next week. It needs to ramp up in the next week. Arsenal have not ruled out selling Gabriel Martinelli this summer. I don't know how quick Tzolis is, and I like Morgan Rogers, but I think you need to at least keep Martinelli for a season. I'm not saying I love Martinelli, as you don't know, but I'm not even saying this as one of them guys about, oh, yeah, Arteta's not profiling him right and all of that. I accept Martinelli for what he is and isn't. 2022-23 is a far cry away. I've gone past hoping the penny drops in terms of potential. So I say that to say this. I look at you as a tool in the toolbox. And this tells you everything. We're in very scary territory when we talk about, it's in his case, an inside forward. We only want to hear about goals and assists, what he can do defensively. I look at him as a tool in the toolbox, like the consistency, the decision making, all of that kind of stuff. I accept him for what he is, but I think you need that pace in the squad. He does have that knack of getting good big goals in that, but I think Martinelli has to stay. I'm not necessarily convinced with Rogers and Tzolis as our left wing options. You keep Martinelli. I'm not necessarily saying he adds to it, but we can maneuver through a 50-odd game calendar. There's people in this squad that I wouldn't say are must sells, but Kai Havertz, Martinelli, Odegaard. Kai Havertz has probably been the most useful of all of them in the last couple of years. But these are players I'd be interested to move away from, because the way we're going and our strongest 11, they probably shouldn't be on it. And, like I said, with Martinelli, I'm talking about him going backwards. I love Martin Odegaard. I think we need to make him our Bernardo Silva. But we're talking about him pressing and all the other facets in which are relevant and prevalent. But you also need to remember you're in that 8.5 role, goals, assists, dictating tempo. the games by the neck. Obviously, in terms of what Arteta demands of a striker and in the modern game, I understand Kai Havertz dropping into midfield, pressing, all of that kind of stuff. But you get where I'm going. These are players I would hold on to for at least a year, if I'm completely honest. It'd be interesting to see what their futures are saying. Martinelli's contract's up soon. He's got an option of another one. There's 2 years left on both Kai Havertz and Martin Odegaard's contract. And they're both, all three of them, better yet, are big earners, really. Like Odegaard's on 200 odd, Kai's on 200 odd, Martinelli on 180 odd. So it'll be interesting to see. Now, obviously, you can't 2 + 2 = 4 in it. It can't equal 10. But when you look at Aston Villa and the signings they're getting, and obviously where Newcastle will be concerned and midfielders, you're thinking, oh, is that going to be the replacement for Bruno Guimaraes? Bruno Guimaraes' agents find Newcastle a new midfielder will help Arsenal transfer. Apparently, Newcastle United have been presented with a potential replacement for Guimaraes. This is significant as Arsenal continue their attempts to prize the Brazilian away from St. James's Park. Botafogo midfielder Danilo, wasn't he at Nottingham Forest? And he used to be linked with us, has emerged as a possible option for the Magpies, although the situation is still at an early stage and no formal offer has been made. Journalist Vinay Casagrande, reports the link between the two players goes beyond their positions on the pitch. Guimaraes and Danilo share the same reps. Fair enough. So he's got the same agent. So you could get your commission on a big money transfer if it was to happen for Bruno to Arsenal. Obviously, from a Brazilian club to an English club like Newcastle, you'd earn your commission and you'd actually be looking after your clients. You know, fair play. The reps are working on Arsenal's pursuit of the Newcastle United captain. At the same time, as we covered earlier this month, they're also suggesting the Botafogo start as a potential successor if a deal eventually materializes. According to ESPN Brazil, Arsenal have already offered around £65 million for Bruno. However, Newcastle are holding firm and are seeking a figure closer to 100 before considering a sale. The negotiations are described as complicated, yet Danilo has already been put forward as a possible replacement should circumstances change. That does not mean Newcastle have decided to pursue the midfielder. Instead, the players' reps are attempting to position him as a ready-made option if Eddie Howe's side are eventually forced into the market for a new central midfielder. Hang on about people. What's all this? Let's continue. Okay. Danilo's profile fits the type of energetic box-to-box midfielder Newcastle would likely seek if Bruno were to depart. The 25-year-old has continued to enhance his reputation during an impressive campaign with Botafogo. They're prepared to sell him for 30 to 34 million quid. For Newcastle, the story remains one to watch rather than an immediate transfer. Any move for Danilo appears dependent on Guimaraes' future. The fact his reps are already positioning him as a possible replacement adds another layer to Arsenal's pursuit of one of the Magpies' most important players. What do we make of that, people? Don't forget to smash the like button. Seems like Barcelona's presidents, Atletico Madrid's presidents, as the World Cup is drawing to a close, obviously Julián Alvarez is focusing, like many of his teammates, on retaining the World Cup. It seems like that's going to be one to watch. Now, if I'm honest, like the player, not really interested. If he wants Barca, he wants Barca. Let's fuck off and find other targets. Of course, if Barcelona and Atletico can't reach an agreement, even though I think it's still too early and I think they will. If they can't reach an agreement, he's still set on leaving. He's open to not only Arsenal, but the Premier League. Of course, that's a very different conversation to what we're seeing now because we're pursuing, in my opinion, somebody that is talented, that would fit our system. But essentially, we're trying to be sloppy seconds. Like, the girl don't want us, bro. Like, let's go find another one. Atletico Madrid CEO Miguel Angel Gil has said Julián Alvarez will not leave for 100 million euros, 150 million euros, or even 200 million euros. It's a game of chess. Barcelona are puffing out their chest. Atletico are puffing out their chest. We've heard the rumors going into the World Cup. Julián Alvarez wants to depart. I can't remember what game it was, but like in the earlier stages of the World Cup, he did say after a game, I want to leave. If you're Atletico Madrid and Barcelona, you know that when the World Cup's done, now's the time to really see what's going on. I wonder if Barcelona are hoping Julián Alvarez reiterates his desire to leave. And I use the term force a move subjectively, but quote unquote force a move, dig your heels in. You're contracted for a decent amount of time. They paid a lot of money for you. It is going to be interesting, people, what exactly happens there. Saliba picked up a back fracture in the Premier League 2 months ago and played through it on painkillers with daily treatment from France's medical staff. Saliba played through the whole World Cup with a back fracture. Bloody hell. Legally, Declan Rice must take a 4-week break starting Monday before he can resume training at Arsenal. Laporte of Barcelona said, we submitted an offer for Julián Alvarez, but the decision is on